जपो नित्यं नित्यं जपो जपो शुक्लाम्बरधरं गणेशमन्त्रं शुक्लाम्बरधरं गणेशमन्त्रं नित्यं नित्यं जपो जपो नित्यं नित्यं जपो जपो विघ्नविनायक विद्यादायक विघ्नविनायक विद्यादायक विघ्नविनायक विद्यादायक विघ्नविनायक विद्यादायक वीरगणपति भजो भजो वीरगणपति भजो भजो वरसिद्धि गणपति जपो जपो वरसिद्धि गणपति जपो जपो शुक्लाम्बरधरं गणेशमन्त्रं शुक्लाम्बरधरं गणेशमन्त्रं नित्यं नित्यं जपो जपो नित्यं नित्यं जपो जपो शुक्लाम्बरधरं गणेशमन्त्रं शुक्लाम्बरधरं गणेशमन्त्रं नित्यं नित्यं जपो जपो नित्यं नित्यं जपो जपो विघ्नविनायक विद्यादायक विघ्नविनायक विद्यादायक विघ्नविनायक विद्यादायक विघ्नविनायक विद्यादायक वीरगणपति भजो भजो वीरगणपति भजो भजो वरसिद्धि गणपति जपो जपो वरसिद्धि गणपति जपो जपो शुक्लाम्बरधरं गणेशमन्त्रं शुक्लाम्बरधरं गणेशमन्त्रं नित्यं नित्यं जपो जपो नित्यं नित्यं जपो जपो शुक्लाम्बरधरं गणेशमन्त्रं शुक्लाम्बरधरं गणेशमन्त्रं नित्यं नित्यं जपो जपो नित्यं नित्यं जपो जपो वरसिद्धि गणपति जपो जपो वरसिद्धि गणपति जपो जपो वीरगणपति भजो भजो वीरगणपति भजो भजो वरसिद्धि गणपति जपो जपो वरसिद्धि गणपति जपो जपो शुक्लाम्बरधरं गणेशमन्त्रं शुक्लाम्बरधरं गणेशमन्त्रं नित्यं नित्यं जपो जपो नित्यं नित्यं नमः श्री यतिराजाय विवेकानंद सूरये सच्चित् सुख स्वरूपाय स्वामिने
Respected elders, brothers and sisters, all the Namo. It is with innumerable reverence and joy on behalf of the officials of the Ramakrishna Center of South Africa, Phoenix, Johannesburg Sub-Center, that we are indeed delighted to have with us Dr. Usha Vasthare, who will be conducting today's program, Rewiring Tools for the Brain. I also extend a warm and cordial welcome to each and every one of you to this morning's program. Wellness is the act of practicing healthy habits daily to attain better physical and mental health outcomes, so that instead of just surviving, you're thriving. Today and the sessions to follow will no doubt enable us to thrive in our daily lives. Dr. Usha Vasthare is the co-founder of YogaKshema, Rehabilitation of Wellness Center since 2007. She spent over 20 years in the USA. Subsequently, she worked as the clinical project coordinator, Parkinson's disease and movement disorder at Pennsylvania Hospital. She presents papers at international conferences and has been interviewed on several TV and radio channels in India and the USA. She has facilitated over 1,000 support group meetings at YogaKshema and conducted numerous workshops on mind training, mindful living, healthy living, overcoming automatic negative thoughts, forgiveness, improving interpersonal relationships, depression, stress management, and various other topics. I am sure you will benefit from Dr. Usha Vasthare's presentation today. Kindly note that there will be a question and answer session after the presentation. I now lovingly handing you over to Dr. Usha.
A very good morning, all. This means thank you. A great day to start. Yeah. As many of you know, this is the last segment of the series of
discussions and talks that have gone through for the past 2 weeks. And today's topic, it brings it all together. For those of you who have gone through the last 3 sessions, you can see how it's going to bring it all together today. Even if somebody has not attended any of these, this is a stand-alone session by itself. As the title itself shows, it's rewiring tools of the brain. I always say, these days, not few years back I used to say, I'm sharing the knowledge. I'm sharing the recent advances in neuroscience research as it is happening too with everybody. But I'm at a stage in my life, and the stage of neuroscience research that is happening, I can only say I'm only sharing my joy with you all. The way neuroscience research is happening, even though it is at the level of mind, when we kind of understand any scriptural knowledge for that matter, I'm not just talking about Buddhist scriptures, Hindu scriptures, it could be Sufi mystics scriptures, any scriptures, or even literature for that matter. There is so much confluence of what has been said in any scriptures, and the current day neuroscience research is happening. This is truly what brings me joy. And I truly have to thank the organizers for having picked this topic. And I know they have been working on this, and we have been planning for this topic for quite some time. In fact, this was supposed to happen 2 years back in person, and because of COVID, it got postponed, and finally it is happening. Let's see. Let me start sharing my slides. Sridhar. I can get some help. You decide if it's good. Anyway, what I'm going to do for the first 2 minutes is to let you know what we have covered so far in the past 3 sessions. We have learned about the difference between health and wellness, and also illness and disease. We understood. Sorry about some technical hitch. Great. Yeah, we're all set. Thanks for your patience and understanding. Yeah, these are the things we have covered so far in the past 3 sessions. As I said, difference between health and wellness, illness and disease. And also we understood about the body-mind connection, and not just connection between body and mind we are all aware of, but also connection between body, mind, and our behaviors, our habits, our actions. And how do we manage ourselves? And we have covered the self-management topics from emotional wellness point of view, physical wellness, and we also covered nutritional wellness. We covered in great detail about understanding ourselves through understanding a simplistic way of looking at the neuroanatomy of the brain, and also how the mind functions. also understood what is it that helps us. And also, even more importantly, what is it that prevents us to be well? We understood the concept of neuroplasticity and also some of the innate cognitive biases that we may have. And we have started looking at the rewiring tools of the brain for us to be healthy and happy. And in that, we've covered part of mindfulness, and today we're going to cover the most important tool, which is cognitive behavior training. Not cognitive behavior therapy as professionals, psychologists would use it, but for all of us to be able to use this technique on a day-to-day basis and to implement in our lives. That is why I have used the term training rather than therapy. So with a brief introduction, we will start. And the people who have been attending the first 3 sessions, they know what the first and the second slide is going to be, right? All right. What do we see here? Pardon? 2 faces, yes. Anything else can we see? In between, yes. If we focus on the white part, we can see 2 faces facing each other. And if we focus on the center part, the black part, the darker part of the picture, we can actually see a vase, right? And you guys know by now my favorite saying, which is, when you change the way you look at things, the things you look at will change. In this picture, was there anything right or wrong? If we focused on the white part, we would see one thing, and if we focused on the other aspect, we would see another way. Just keep this in the back of your mind while we go through the rest of the discussion. And also, we will know how to use these tools. For me as a scientist, I keep saying, just how to use the tools is not going to be enough. We need to know why. Why do we need to use the tools? As a scientist, this is extremely important. As I keep saying, that why ultimately is common for each and every one of us, whichever background we come from. Irrespective of socio-economic, educational, religious background, that why is common for us. And then we will see as we go along what that is. And that is the power of science, which is all about commonality amongst all of us. That why, ultimate why, as they say, I think if you ask why 5 times, you get an answer. You ask why once, you get an answer, which will be different for each of us. You ask another time, why is that? You keep asking why, I think either 5 or 7 times, they say, right? And each and every one of us will come up with the same answer. And that is what we're going to figure out. What is the ultimate why for all of us? And science is also not about just commonality, you know. It's also about reproducibility, which means if each and every one of us know how to use these tools and we put them into practice, we would be getting similar results. And if we don't get similar results, all we need to do is to just do some course corrections. Just like sometimes when we have headaches, just one Tylenol, or I think Panadol is what they use here, a painkiller is enough. Sometimes it is not. For somebody else, they may not need 2 tablets, right? So a little bit tweaking the dose is what we need. In a similar manner, if we kind of do course corrections while using these tools, we will all get similar results. Let's see, what is that similar results we are looking for? Better health, and not just health, to be well. The wellness and well-being of us is what we are focusing. So let us look at health and wellness from different perspective also. And then let's see what we're going to come up with in the next couple of hours. So we're going to try and see if there is any shift in perception. And looking at even our health and wellness or well-being, which is whatever challenges that we may be going through, we can look at it from two different perspectives. Whatever we're doing right now, using any of the techniques, including using allopathic medicine to be healthier and to be well, we might be doing to be able to survive, to be able to exist. And as Estelle said, and may not be just to survive and to exist, but even to thrive. Absolutely. But today we're going to see, can we go a step further and see if we can use these tools and many others that we have covered, not just to survive, not just to exist, not just to thrive, but also evolve into better human beings. What is that evolving is all about? And I know if I have to take you back to high school days, what we learned about Darwinian theory of evolution is about survival of the fittest, right? It looks like we have gotten it all wrong to a certain extent. We thought survival of the fittest means to be physically fit. And even if we have to step down somebody to achieve something, we need to keep achieving, is what we thought about the Darwinian theory of evolution as survival of the fittest. Whether you have thought about it this way or not, whether any education system, any system connected with economy, whether within a family, community, nation, or internationally, everything is built on this system of knowing that it is the survival of the fittest. This is what we thought humans have been evolved to be the fittest in the species of animal kingdom, which we also belong. But because of the new neuroscience research that is happening, and not just with neuroscience research, what I'm trying to bring you here is, of course, the recent advances in neuroscience research, but any religion for that matter, this is what each and every religion was saying, but using different terminologies. And depending on which religion that we belong to, we would cater to only that kind of terminology. But today what I'm going to be using is totally different terminology, scientific terminology, to see what does that evolving means. It is not about the survival of the fittest, but actually it is the survival of the friendliest. You know, in science, if anything has to come up in the form of a book, which makes it so popular, not just stay in scientific journals wherein only a niche of few highly specialized scientists would understand and know. This is the beauty of the neuroscience research as it is happening today, that it has all that research that is happening and it is going to happen in the future has come in the form of popular literature. This is what excites me, and this is what brings me joy to share such type of scientific literature. So we're going to try and see if we can make a shift in the perception. Yes, we have come here to understand and to be healthier and well. And I can promise you will get much more than what you're expecting if we make a shift, a paradigm shift in the way we are looking at things. Rather than just surviving, rather than just thriving, can we evolve as a species? Can we co-evolve together? Is what we want to be focusing on. If you focus something really high, everything else is going to be included. Your health, your wealth, your wellness, and not just yours. Everybody else is around you too if you start making a shift in looking at from the perspective of evolving. So for that, let's start looking at some of the rewiring tools of the brain. First, we're going to look at mindfulness as a rewiring tool. And today it is only going to be a recap because we have gone through this in detail in the last session. But just to bring you all on board, I'm just going to recap what this mindfulness is all about. Usually when we go on the internet, we would get to understand mindfulness this way, through this definition that is given by John Kabat-Zinn. Even this definition, I've tried to simplify and I put it this way, which means mindfulness is all about just understanding 3 points here. One, we know mindful means we have to be in the present moment. All of us know by now that we have to be in the here and now and here, right? Yes, that means in the present moment, the very first aspect. And not just in the present moment, we have to be highly focused. We have to be concentrating, which is we need to be paying attention. When these first 2 aspects of mindfulness, there is nothing new about this because we have all done this and we still do. We will do it forever. This is nothing but focusing and concentrating. As kids, we have learned, and even now, we even know that if we focus and if we concentrate in a particular way, we can even be in the flow, right? This is what we understand so much. So there is a book by that title called Flow. Anyway, the third aspect of mindfulness, which is important, is that one needs to be non-judgmental. These 3 aspects together form what mindfulness is all about. We have covered it in great detail. But this is, again, one of the standard ways of looking at mindfulness. But for the past 15 years of work that we have been doing in India, US, and many other countries, while sharing first the knowledge and the joy, we understood mindfulness at a much deeper level, which truly helps us in implementation. Because when we just look at this definition, we usually say, okay, this is nothing but sounds like meditation. We understand it is not religious because she's been saying that she's going to bring a scientific perspective. That is why I'm using the term mindfulness also. So we understand that mindfulness is much more than that. So we're going to bring you 2 different views and perspectives of mindfulness, which is one of this second way. We have heard this phrase, I think it's Einstein, if I'm correct, says, if you do the same thing again and again and again and expect different results, it is what's called insanity, right? So even though we know this, we keep doing the same thing because we are on the autopilot mode most of the times. We have learned this in the past 3 sessions. So can we change something? Can we change our perspective and see what happens? How will it change? When we try and change our perspective, and if I have to say this, this is the most difficult angle of mindfulness. But yet it is extremely powerful if we can get it. And of course, this is not a stage to reach, as I keep saying, even our evolution. When we evolve, it is not a stage to reach, but on a moment-to-moment basis. Because what does this say for implementation purposes? Can you look at something, a situation, a circumstance, or a person as though you are looking at for the very first time in your life? It sounds great because I see many couples here and even parents with their children. I'm going to challenge you all and see, can you look at your spouse as though you are looking at him or her for the first time? And the parents, can you look at your kids as though you are looking at that person for the first time and see what kind of joy that brings him? I can see that, feel that with that smile on your faces. Yes, it takes you back to your younger days, and start practicing this. It is tough, as I said, but truly takes you to a different level. Immediately at that moment, you really can evolve because you're going to drop all those misunderstandings or biases that you might have with that person and start looking at it in a truly beautiful manner. Anyway, another way of looking at this second aspect of mindfulness is, see, I always say, we're humans, we're bound to make mistakes, right? When we make mistakes for the very first time, because we don't know it, that's why it's a true mistake when we do it for the first time. However, when we do it the second time or third time, when we do things in a mindless way, it happens. We keep making the same mistakes again and again and again because we have not learned from the very first time. And we say, then it is not a mistake, it is a choice we are making. And it also means it has become a habit. And especially with respect to our interpersonal relationships and our communication with our own loved ones. Just go back and think about this and see how each and every one of us, even though we learn, but we still keep making the same mistake again and again. How we react to certain people, how we react to certain circumstances and situations. At that time, try and bring these explanations, definitions, so if I may, and say, how can I be more mindful? How can I look at the situation from a different perspective? Because when you change the way you look at things, the things you look at will change. How can I do that? Again, with some pictorial representation, it helps us. Yeah, there is no right or wrong in looking at that number, either as 6 or 9, right? It's not that if you go back and look at the situation in the same way, it is not that it is right or wrong. It is not about looking at things in a binary format. Absolutely not. Try looking at different ways, because world, the way we see is not through a binary format if we really need to evolve. In other words, to put it even more simply, the way we look at the worldview, we are trained, or even without our knowledge, we see things as black and white, right or wrong, good or evil. But truly, there is nothing like black and white, just black and white. Very few things are pure black and pure white. Everything is shades of gray in between. So can we start looking at things from a different perspective? Can we change our perspective of the worldview so that our perception of our loved ones will also change, as a matter of fact? And this is what our Swami Swami Swatma Ramanandaji has been guiding us, has been taking classes after classes, and thanks to COVID, I don't know, he has several hundreds of talks on the YouTube telling the same thing using different terminologies. He says, don't look at yourself as just body and mind, and you're limiting yourself. He says you're much more than your body and mind. And if I have to bring in Swami Vivekananda's words to what our Swamiji has taught us, we are all divine beings going through a human experience. If we can just remember this is enough. And at the same time, we need to remember it's not just me who is a divine being going through a human experience, and even that difficult person in my life is also a divine being going through human experience. We really, really need to understand interpersonal relationship. Put that into practice and see how magic happens. We can evolve the very next moment. This is how we change our perspective. Yes, I can tell you from scientific perspective with utmost confidence, but the next moment we will go down thinking that I'm this body and mind. That is the way the mind works. Not to feel bad, but the very next moment, we have the capacity, we have the cerebral capacity and capability to rise up again, to change our perspective. This is what evolving is all about. If we can get this, I think there will not be any difficult person in our life, nor any difficult relationship. I can assure you this from a scientific perspective. Say this, and this is what our Swamiji has been talking about this from an Advaitic angle. Terminologies are different. But this is the power of science, wherein irrespective of, because we are here, coming from various religion, caste, color, creed, socio-economic, educational backgrounds. But yet, the answer is the same for each and every one of us. So the third way of looking at mindfulness is, again, one of my favorite ones, is, we all have things to do and we have things we want to do. We have to do and we want to do. And there is a very clear-cut separation between things we want to do and things we have to do. And can we dissolve this separation and say, oh, if things have to be done, I will just do it. And this is, in a fun way, I call this as the Nike mindset. Just do it, right? No separation between I have to do and what I want to do. Whatever has to be done, just do it. So when we do that, usually this is our reaction, right? What are you talking about? What happened? From that, we go to, so what? I'll do it. And not only that, this is our favorite one, saying that, why me? Why did this have to happen to me? And if we understand these scientific perspectives on mindfulness properly, and not just understand, put it into practice, and then we are ready. See, why not me? And I will go a step further and say, try me. This is where we truly, that moment we can evolve. Yes, I will keep repeating. After several moments, we may come down. Our mind might come down to a lower level. With all the biases that we have, we might come down. But at that moment, just remember that we have this potential within us. Unlimited potential that no other animal species has this. And this is also what has been said in our scriptures. Said in Bhagavatam, it says, Brahmavaloka Bhishanam. That means only humans have the capacity, the Bhishanam, to be able to understand the ultimate Brahman, or the ultimate truth. Only we have the capacity. And that capacity, we will be able to use it to the fullest extent only when we change that perception from surviving to thriving to evolving mode. So, to just sum up, emotions and feelings are not facts. We need to know the painful emotions arise from our beliefs rather than from reality itself. So question your beliefs, whether they are empowering or are they limiting you? And just change your belief system. Anything that we need to change, we really have to change from our belief system. Look for yourself, whether it's limiting, disempowering belief system, then just change it. May be true, but if it is limiting you, there is no just one truth at the level that we are working. We're just moving from lower truth to higher truth, as Swami Vivekananda says. So just change the belief system, even if it may be true, to a higher truthful belief system, which will make you really empowering. I'm saying in a different way, it's a distorted perception of the reality that hurts us than the reality itself. What do I mean by that? As I can just quickly give an example of a student, before going to exams, we always think, oh my goodness, this is what's going to happen, that's what's going to happen. It's all our imagination. That's not the reality. But once we finish the exams, then we know, I studied well, I did well. But it's our distorted perception of the reality, that imagination because of our innate negativity biases is always colored. So we need to go deeper into looking at the reality as it is, not the way we want it to be, but to look at the reality as it is. And this is a simpler one. Mind takes on the quality that it dwells on. Just like water, it takes the shape of the container it is in, right? We've done this in school days, the experiments. We have seen that when you pour water in different shape, glass tubes, it takes that shape. It's the same way, our mind is the same way. So mindfulness can actually radically transform our emotions and our feelings. Because they are not facts, they can radically transform. So ultimately, mindfulness is all about accepting the reality as it is and not the way we want it to be. So if I have to just sum up on mindfulness, I like this Thich Nhat Hanh's saying. We lost him very recently. Anyway, life is available only in the present moment. That means life happens only in the present moment. Here and now, now and here. So, if you know just this is enough until whatever I have said, which means all you need to do is to avoid 2 days in your life. And those 2 days you cannot accomplish anything. And that is, probably I know, yes, yesterday and tomorrow. So all you need to do is, I give you the prescription, like today, right? All you need to think about, not worry about, think about, plan about is for this day, today. However, here you want to evolve really fast, I will upgrade this prescription to not even today, but just this moment. Which means all we need to do is to take care of one moment at a time. Single moment. We don't need to worry about even one day. Take care of that moment in a mindful way. Take care of that moment in a conscious way. Take care of that moment in a willful way. Take care of the moment in an effortful way. Putting effort on that moment, not just on an autopilot mode. So, all we have is now. So all we need to do is to manage this moment, the now. And how do we manage? As I said, in a mindful way. So let us let go of our reasons why we cannot be this way or that way. Those reasons easily turn into excuses, right? To let go of our own excuses. Nobody puts limitations on us. We ourselves put the limitations on ourselves. And once you let go of the excuses, all you need to do is to do the right thing. Do the right thing each time, every time, and that's it. But usually, we focus on doing things right. Yes, it is important. Doing things right is important, I'm not saying. But even more than doing things right, we need to understand about doing the right thing. When we start choosing to do the right thing, automatically doing things right will follow. The natural mindset, just do it. So, until now, this is what we have covered in the previous days. We're now going to focus on cognitive behavior training, or the CBT. CBT as a rewiring tool. Before that, I just want to recap few of the most important neuroscience concepts that we need to remember if we need to understand CBT itself. So I'll quickly go through this. We know we have said this. We get many thoughts in a day, but not all thoughts are true. And we need to put these thoughts into a true or false test to know whether they're true or not. And most of the time, whether we know it or not, we are on the autopilot mode. Thoughts create feelings, feelings create our thoughts. This is the relationship between our thinking and our feeling, thoughts and feelings. Self-awareness. One of the most important function or characteristic of our higher center of the brain, which makes us human. Along with self-awareness, there are a couple of other functions like discerning power, our power to choose, the free will, and the focusing power, the concentration power, and the power to forget. As much as it is important for us to remember, we also need to know how to forget. And the discerning power will help us to tell us what is it that we need to forget, what is it that we need to remember. But because of our negativity bias that is innate within us, we put limitations on ourselves, trying to remember the unwanted things that bring us a lot more grief than remembering the things that bring us joy. Anyway, we just understood about the mindfulness and the innate biases that we all have, irrespective of whether we are saint or a scientist, professor or a student, doctor or a patient. And few more. We know now that if we change our thoughts in a particular way, in an effortful, willful, conscious manner, then we can change the brain. And if we change our perception, we can change the very structure and function of the brain. If we change our feelings over a period of time, we can change our brain. If we change our belief system, we can change our brain. If we change our experience, very important. This is when we can make long-lasting changes in the structure and function of the brain, which will result in our transformation or change over a period of time. So just to put all of this in one simple way, saying that if you change your mind, you can change your brain. And why do we need to change our brain? Yes, if you change your brain, you change your life itself. So with this, we will move on to understanding what is CBT. One of the basic things that we need to understand is, as I mentioned earlier, that we have a very close connection between our body and mind. We understand this very easily. That our behaviors, our actions are also very tightly related to this mind and body connection. Why? Why do we need to go deeper into CBT? Because until now, CBT has been used only by professionals, wherein for each session, one has to pay so much to be able to learn this tool and technique. And even that will happen only if you have some kind of an issue or a problem or a challenge one is going through, and then one goes through a counselor or a psychologist to be able to learn this technique. And they call that as cognitive behavior therapy. This is what we have been doing for the past 10 to 15 years. We should not be waiting until we have a problem or a challenge that we will not be able to face it ourselves or to overcome, so that we need to go to a professional to learn this technique. Each and every one of us, not just those who are sitting here, starting from children, we can teach this tool and technique to our kids even when they are small, so that they don't have to go through what we go through right now as adults, not knowing how to manage our emotions, not knowing how to manage our feelings, not knowing how to manage our interpersonal relationships, not knowing how to manage our own loved ones, not knowing how to manage our own children who we ourselves. We can understand this. This is why I have put it in such simple ways that any one of us can get it. All you need to do is to believe in science. This is not faith-based. If we believe in science, then we can put this into practice every moment of our lives. That is how powerful this tool and technique is. And of course, depending on the personality or the people or the age, we have actually come up with various variations of the CBT, which we have been putting into practice for the past 10 years. And so much so, we're trying to come up with a new way of counseling to train even the counselors, the psychologists, or any professional who would want to. That is another topic for another day by itself. But why? First, let us understand why do we need to understand this tool and technique even before putting into practice. This helps us. When you put CBT into practice, you can come out of the highly charged emotional reactions. And I know I'm not using the word negative here, but we know highly charged, positive, happy reactions, we don't need to be bothered. It's those emotions that pull us down. That is, and it is possible for us, for ourselves to come out. Not after having a drink, but very next moment. Not sleeping over that matter, but that very next moment. Not having that chocolate or ice cream to come out of this emotional reaction, but that very next moment, we have the capacity to do so. And CBT helps us to come out of that limiting beliefs, disempowering beliefs. It helps us to come out of that autopilot mode. There was a study that was done in UK, and they say it was more than 60 or 70% of the times people themselves admitted this. This was a clear-cut research that was done in UK, and wherein they said more than 70% of the times they were on autopilot mode. Even though it was the research that was done in UK, it was random research, random sampling research. Most of us are also follow that statistical mode. Yeah, to challenge and change our underlying thoughts that give rise to those unhelpful and limiting emotions. Not just the emotions. So behind any emotion, behind any feeling is a thought. So it is possible to come out of that. Going a little bit deeper into CBT, this is all being, I'm trying to build up such that we can understand each of these aspects. And then when I come to the final thing, it makes it so easy. Oh, this is all. You will say, and not only this is all, yes, I've been doing, but not always being successful. You will get to understand this. Yes, negative thinking blows everything out of proportion. Let's take a situation. How we blew things out of proportion and response we get. Like for example, success. We blow out of proportion if it is our success. Right? Oh, this is huge. I'm not making any value judgment here. I'm not saying this is right or wrong. For us to understand, I'm just taking an example, that's all. Mistake, it is somebody else's mistake. We blow out of proportion, right? And our own challenge. Oh, this, you have no idea how cold it was the last 2 days. Here in Joburg, not so much as in Durban, right? Whatever we are going through, any challenge, we blow out of proportion. And the work, if it is something that we do, tons of work this week, and there is no way I can have that cup of coffee with you, which I promised I would do. I'm sorry, I can't do. So this is how we say this to ourselves. And the same way, it is somebody else's success. And how is our response? And our mistake, how will we respond to it? It's out of proportion in opposite direction. Somebody else's challenge, somebody else's work, a situation, how we do this. However, when our self-awareness increases, what happens? We will be able to see things as they are, right? When our self-awareness increases, mindfulness ensues. When, remember, that shift in perception has to happen. Again, no value judgment, no right or wrong. But if we need to evolve, we have to change that perception, change the way we are looking at things, so the things we look at will change. Mindfulness ensues, and we're going to have proper response to any situation that we are going through. Not blowing out of proportion. Any situation, we see things as they are. Not the way we want it to be, but as they are. Also, as I mentioned earlier, CBT helps us to come out of autopilot mode. Maybe without our deep thinking, we all have done this, we will still do this. It's not that easy to come out of it because we are on the autopilot mode. It has become a habit. And sometimes it is funny too. We make fun of these situations when we blow out of proportion. But CBT, when we put it into practice, helps us to come out of that autopilot mode. Also, CBT helps us to have control over our thoughts, emotions, feelings, and our behaviors. I'm trying to bring the same message from many different angles and perspectives so that it's easier for us to absorb. And cognitive behavior training also helps us to overcome our limiting and disempowering beliefs and use practical strategies to change our own actions, to change our own habits, to change our own behaviors, or slightly even modifying our behavior or our habits is still going to help us. And the goal of CBT, cognitive behavior training, which is a cognitive process, as the name itself suggests, cognitive behavior training, right? It's a cognitive process. It doesn't happen because of our feelings, not in a spur of the moment, not in an emotional way, but in a highly conscious, effortful, willful ways we need to put this into practice, wherein it increases our awareness and it facilitates self-understanding. That means it helps us to understand ourselves so that we can understand others. And as I said, this can happen by developing more appropriate cognitive and behavior skills, which we will see what they are in a moment. But before that, one more concept. I just want to expand a bit on this so it will help us to know the relationship between thought and feeling, that every thought releases a chemical producing certain feelings, and those feelings producing similar chemicals, producing similar thoughts. Even before doing this, we need to know everything. Everything begins from a thought. Whether it's a conscious thought or a non-conscious thought, everything begins from a thought. And the thought producing an emotion or a feeling, and data producing an action. So behind every action, there is a thought. It's a profound statement. Let's see what it means. To sum up what I've just said, it is not the things that happen in our life that makes us to feel and do it in a certain way. Actually, the way we think about the things that happen makes us. We have heard this, read this from different angles, but let's see what it means. It could be many of the issues that I've just brought about. It could be our repetitive thoughts that come again and again and again. Might also sometimes result in repetitive actions, or it might be an addiction issue, the way we are looking at it. If we understand why there are certain addictive thoughts, certain repetitive thoughts, why they happen again and again and again. And if we change the way we look at our relationship with our own problems, that is where we will be able to come out of this. This is again what we have been doing a lot of research to be able to treat depression, and we're in the process of using all this recent advances in scientific knowledge, even to be able to treat anxiety, to be able to treat OCD, obsessive compulsive disorders, or repetitive thoughts, or repetitive actions, and to show the why, even we always go to the why and make the person understand, so that they will be able to come out of these issues themselves through the foundation of neuroplasticity. And that too, it has to be self-directed neuroplasticity processes. So even the difficult person in our life, how are we looking at that person? Is it by saying, oh, this is my karma I have to go through? As I said, this is science. I'm not making any value judgments. We can use those concepts and terminologies to overcome. And if that has not helped, then change that and see that this difficult person is there in my life to help me evolve. Because it's not just in scriptures, they say you learn much quicker when you're going through tough times. In suffering, one learns faster. But the new way of looking at resilience, the new scientific way of looking at resilience is we develop resilience only during tough times. Not when things are going great, but only during tough times. So can we look at the difficult person in our life to be able to be a gift for me, to be able to evolve? Then again, if you change the way you look at things, not if, when you change the way you look at things, the things you look at will change. Again, continuing, CBT involves is a technical term. Just we don't have to know too much, but because when you go now, I know I would have kindled that interest within you. You're going to go look into more literature or look at the books that we have displayed. You're going to go and increase your library space by reading or on the net, whichever way it may be. So you will come across the word reframing. This is a technical word that people, the professionals use. that reframing, nothing but challenging and changing our underlying thoughts, the kind of thoughts which produce limiting or unhelpful emotions and feelings. And that is where CBT helps us. And consciously changing how we feel during our tough times of cognitive distortions. In other words, to put it even easily, simply, is our innate biases. Cognitive distortions, our innate biases that we all have. To be able to be aware of those distortions or biases which color the reality, and to be able to change those in a conscious, willful, effortful manner. And self-awareness now. You see how the self-awareness keeps coming back and again and again, because self-awareness is the most important quality that distinguishes us as human beings from the rest of the animal kingdom. But we need to be honest with ourselves. And the feelings to come in the way of this reframing process, that we need to be able to change that in a mindful way and to develop healthy self-talk. This reframing is nothing but self-talk. We say to ourselves, it has to be done in a healthy manner. Right now, the repetitive thoughts that we get, the self-talk, because of our biases, is mostly negative or fearful or anxious thoughts that we're going to reframe to have healthy self-talk. But as one of my favorites, just reframing at the thought level is not going to be enough. Just saying positive things is not going to be enough if they're not followed by positive feelings. I've seen people say the right things, people say positive things, but not with the proper feelings. Saying the right things, saying positively is the first step. Following that up with the proper feelings is the next step. And even that is not going to be enough until and unless it is followed by actions. We will not be able to change ourselves at all. Because many times we will do more harm than good. Because being false positive is also negative. And when we are being false positive and not following it up with actions, then we will be hurting many others who are around us. We don't realize, as educators, as parents, many a times we do this. Rightly so. As parents and educators, we might know, we know I'm not there, but at least my kids, my students need to know the right thing. And especially, we will take the example of parents, at least because we have parents and kids here or the spouses. When somebody is saying the right thing, whoever is listening, just take the message and not look at the messenger. It could be the spouse or the parent. Just take the message. Put that into practice. When we put that into practice, then maybe even the messenger, whoever is giving that message will be able to change. But whoever is saying, keep that in mind, just because we are parents, yes, we have to be saying the right things. But just saying the right things in this day and age is not going to be enough. It's not as people in my generation, they keep going saying, when I was a kid, those words, those phrases won't work anymore in this day and age. As parents, as educators, we need to walk our talk. And if we know we are not able to say that to your children or say that to your spouse, I'm not able to, but I will say, I'm saying the right thing. But I'm trying to follow. I'm trying to walk my talk because we have touched upon the importance of interpersonal relationships when we talked about wellness and well-being. You don't need to bother about interpersonal relationships if you want to stay at the level of being healthy, I can tell you this. But if you want to go beyond being healthy, if you really need to be well, you need to consider the importance of interpersonal relationships. Yes, even if we are not able to follow what we say, we need to be saying the right thing, just like this is the definition of a parent, I can tell you that. But yet, tell your kids that I'm trying to walk my talk. Let's do it together. It is tough, but let's do it together. And see the kind of bonding that happens in your interpersonal relationships. Truly, magic happens. I can assure you this by my own experience. In bringing up many, many kids, I can tell you. Those kids who might be adults, not necessarily bringing up like this, not just biological kids. This is where we as parents, we as educators will gain that respect from others. This is how we evolve. So when we do that, eventually a shift in the mindset happens, and we will start looking at each and every situation and each and every person who comes across in our lives as a gift for me to be able to evolve. This is a healthy angle that we bring to the relationships. Okay, that was intense. Now I'm going to go a little bit more deeper into CBT, but before that, if you have any questions, I think this is the time again, because yes, certain times does become intense. Evolving is not easy, but it has to be fun because it has to bring joy in our lives. Not only in our lives, but also in our others' lives, because it is impossible to evolve alone. We might say we are so independent, but I can assure you, you cannot evolve independently. We are all on this journey together to co-evolve. So it has to bring us joy to evolve. It may be difficult. So what? It has to bring joy. Yeah, any questions, if I may, before I go a little bit deeper into CBT? Yes. Yes. And I just want to tell you for record, we are recording this session. So as long as you're aware of it, then it's. Yes, Sunny.
So it's a very interesting idea, evolution of a particular person is behaving, feeling, and thinking in a particular way. When you deal with interrelationship issues with another party, does that party have to change also in your evolutionary cycle, or can you do it on your own?
I will just answer this, which we all know, and one of my favorite sayings too by Mahatma Gandhi. Be the change that you want to see in the world. As a result of our transformation, others will. Don't expect, but be hopeful. You have to have the hope that the other person is changing. If the other person is not changing, it's not about the other person, it's all about you or us. We need to even go deeper.
That is a lovely thought.
Yes, but difficult.
Comes to a lot of taxation.
Lot of?
Taxation, it taxes another person. But there comes a time when you have to use your discerning power to decide whether you want to pursue. It's okay with you, so long as you're not losing your balance. You can learn to avoid the confrontative situation. Is that okay?
If you have to, but a truly mindful way is not through avoidance. We need to go through. The only way we know confrontation is in an aggressive way, because of the way we have understood about the survival of the fittest evolutionary theory. I'll give you another example, but before that, you said it is taxing the other person. No, I'm saying the other way around. It is not about the other person. We need to focus on that I want to evolve. I want to be kinder. I want to be gentler. I want to be more understanding. I want to be more loving. I want to be more compassionate. I want to be more empathetic. It's not about the other person at all. So if at all it is going to be taxing you more than the other person.
That's actually what I'm saying.
Yeah.
It's taxing to the person.
Taxing to the person. Yeah. But if we look at it as taxing, this has to be joyous because we are evolving. That shift has to happen, Sunny. That evolving has to be. I'll give you in a different way. I'll give you a different example. When we were young, when we first took up our career, kind of plans we had, where we are right now. Did we at that time think, oh, this is going to be so difficult if I have to start my own business? It was so joyous. We knew there were going to be ups and downs. We knew there were going to be so many uncertainties, right? But when we made the decision, it was joyous. But if we wanted to start something on our own. And when we started a family, we think about all the trials and tribulations and how much money we have to spend on each kid. Do you think we thought about it? It was such a joyous occasion. If those brought so much joy to our lives, what of evolution? We are evolving into better human beings. This has to bring even more joy. This is what Swamiji has been honing in on us for the past 2 years. Using different terminologies, of course. Until and unless that paradigm shift happens in our minds, that we need to be evolving, and we need to be evolving together. But not asking that person, want to evolve, so you also have to do this. And if I want to do this, this. But yet you can say, we all have to evolve together. I'm trying. Alone I can do this. Can you help me? When I lose my cool, when I feel like putting hands into that cookie jar or chocolates and then I want to eat that when I'm in a low mood, at that time, can you help me? You say what you want to do that will help you. This is what brings. This is again different theories of mind. If I can put it in a broad general manner, this is what we're trying to make people understand. Totally new and different way of looking at our own mind, at the psychology of our mind. All the theories that we have understood, have studied, and what we are putting into practice, many a times it is so weak when compared to looking at ourselves as co-evolving in this process and to be able to come together. These angles and views, to be honest with you, Sunny, and this is what we're building up, new courses on counseling, because of my passion of understanding our scriptures. And it is our Swamijis who have helped us to do that. And that we can do, because I know there are quite a few initiated devotees here, so which I can say this. This we can do when we truly understand the Guru. Forget about even the scriptures. If you truly understand the life of a Guru, what he or she has gone through, that is what gives you the strength and joy. It's Lao Tzu who said, when you love somebody, it gives you strength. And when you know you're loved by somebody, it will give you the courage to do anything. Beautiful. So deep and so highly scientific. When you have that strength, when we have that strength and courage, we know how much we have loved people. And we know in the deep of our hearts, we know we are loved by others. And especially if you have a guru, it's even easier. You know how much you're loved by your guru. And I've said this in public in many places, and I'm going to say it again. To be honest with you, and even before I say what I'm going to say, I can tell you the response I get when I say this. People's eyebrow raise and like, what are you talking about? Because we understand that love in such a limited way. I say, I truly learned how to love people by seeing how the sadhus of our Ramakrishna order, from the sadhus of the Ramakrishna order, that unconditional love, but we only know that word in such a limited manner with our siblings, with our spouses, with our kids, and we say, you learn to love from sadhus of Ramakrishna order is what people have asked me. I've said this in public. So we know when, if you have a guru, if you're an initiated devotee, then you know you need to have that guru and you need to learn to love that guru. First, yes, ask for anything you want from the guru, you will get it. And after that, as we talked earlier, that love has to evolve. That is, when it evolves, then we love that guru just for love's sake. not because we want something from that guru. This is how you learn to love. And having a guru and looking at the sadhus' lives, we can learn to really love in an unconditional manner. And that has to bring joy, right? This is what evolving is all about. And I can go much, much deeper into the science behind it, but this is not the time and place because of the lack of time. And if you read this book, there is plenty of evidence based on research that has happened on animals. They even talk about competitive communication as opposed to cooperative communication. Even chimpanzees communicate. They can understand like us, but that is from a competitive manner. Competitive communication. Those experiments are there in that. Whereas as humans, even a young baby does cooperative communication. Even before the baby can talk, it will point out to something and then communicate with the mother. And it understands when the mother points out to something and the baby understands. That is cooperative communication. Yes, there is communication between animals and the humans, but what type of communication? So, at least today, if we can forget about all of this and say, I want to evolve and I want to evolve in a joyous manner and I know I'll be evolving in others. First, let it start at the family level and see how much joy it brings. Any other questions? Okay, let's go a little bit deeper into CBT and then see. The next few slides, it's going to go zip through before I conclude. But we're going to go in, going deeper, stepwise, to understand CBT so that we'll be convinced about it. Because it's all about not just at the thought level, not just at the feeling level, at the level of our behavior. Cognitive behavior training, right? So I'm just making the case, again, going deeper and deeper stepwise. Self-explanatory, thoughts create feelings, feelings create our behavior reinforces our thoughts, and our behavior reinforces our feelings too, right? That's actually two-way arrow. Same thing said in different ways. This is all I'm saying. Thought, feeling, and behavior said in different ways, including taking examples. And some of it you will be able to have fun with the example that I've taken. What we think affects how we act and we feel. And it produces a behavior, and so what we do affects how we think and feel. And what we feel affects on how we behave and how we think. This is now. See a scenario. Taking an example. Take an example of public speaking. If we have an anxiety situation, speaking publicly, right? We have all gone through that. So what happens? What thought do I get? I don't want to make a fool of myself in front of all these people. No. And then that leads to that thought. That leads to some anxious feelings, anxiety. And that results in our behavior. We keep mum. We don't even ask questions. We don't speak because we think even if I ask questions, they might think that I don't know. So I better not ask. And then that again leads to similar thoughts. I don't want to make a fool of myself. And that repeats, that cycle repeats, right? So what happens again? That anxious feeling actually leads to bodily sensations. If we are sensitive, we will be able to feel this. Just before going for public speaking, it could be butterflies in the stomach or sweaty hands, dry mouth, right? All these bodily sensations. Again, so correct. Look at, I'm sweating. I'm shivering. People cannot see, but I know how I feel. So I better not go out and speak. She didn't even say hi. I've been trying to get her attention, and she did. She looked at me and she went away. These thoughts come to us again, autopilot mode. Anyway, again, what are the physical sensations? If you feel, if our thoughts are so unhelpful and limiting for us, disempowering thoughts, depending how sensitive we are, we might get angry too. And that will have different physical sensations. Or if we are sensitive, we might have stomach cramps, especially kids come back from school, something happened with their friend, a situation, and they have low energy, they feel sick. And what action do we take? We go home and we try to avoid that person. You know, it has happened earlier. It still happen once in a while. It does happen, right? So what are the helpful thoughts? This is how we need to change, reframe. When that happened, when she ignored, oh, she looked a little bit busy. I wonder if there's anything wrong with her. Even though I tried to get her attention, I thought she saw me, then she went away. Don't know. And the concern for the other person. You're not focusing on yourself. Feeling angry, feeling low, feeling sad, feeling rejected, but your focus is on the other person, not on yourself. So that you don't feel anything physically because you're thinking about the other person. You're concerned, you're compassionate. You're empathetic, you're understanding. And what is the action that you take? You go home, send a message, call and find out, is everything okay? I tried to get your attention when I saw you at the mall. You were too busy. Is everything okay? From that thought to feeling. Another example. We have set up the alarm, we want to wake up early, whatever time that may be, but we put that snooze button. It could be 5 minutes or 10 minutes on your phone, whichever way you have set it up. Oh, 10 more minutes, right? That is a thought. Right away, your finger goes to the snooze button. What is the emotion? It could be, I'm so tired, I don't want to get up now. Or I can't believe it's already 6 a.m. Angry or tired, whichever the emotion or feeling. Again, depending on the case, what's our behavior? Either we stay in bed or we pull covers overhead. Or I'll give you one more option. We know we have to do something, so we cannot stay in bed. We get up and then we are either angry or we come down to have that cup of coffee which is not ready yet. And how do we feel? Right? This is the situation. How do we come out of it? This is a fun exercise, a thought experiment. I'm going to leave it up to you. I don't know if I have time to go through. We can go through. Otherwise, Probably we can do that later, but I will leave it up to you. Now that we know what's that reframing, if I have to put CBT into practice, yes, that's a thought. I'm so tired. I want few more minutes. I'm too tired. I have to get up, right? Very clear distinction between I have to get up, but I want to sleep. So we need to understand about cognitive behavior training in two aspects: the role of self-awareness and the role of mindfulness. Many times we are not even aware. I can understand about the snows because we could be still sleepy, not even aware, forget about self-aware, not aware of even the external situation, right? Take the other example, you know. We may not even be aware of what is happening inside us, the thoughts we get, or the low feelings, sad or angry, and how we avoid, in the previous example, how we avoid even calling that person, finding out, right? First, that self-awareness, what we're thinking, what we're feeling, what did we do, what we did not do, what we should have done, what we did not do. Awareness has to come in. The role of self-awareness is extremely important in CBT and the role of mindfulness. Take the second example, then it will be easy. That our behavior, pulling up the covers, instead of that, Nike mindset. I have to do it, I just do it. Role of mindfulness. If we can understand these two things, the rest, honestly, is easy. And all of this, the way we are putting, is again by so much experience in the past 10 years with people. Usually, when we just study in the courses, this is not how it is taught. But this is not a course in that way. This is not where we're going for any therapy session. For people like you and me, when we go deeper in understanding these things, we can make our lives better. We can improve the quality of our lives. This is what our organization has been doing for the past 10, 15 years in many places to bring mind to the doorsteps of people. We don't need to use such heavy words like psychology, counseling, therapy, and whatnot. Each and every one of us, starting from young kids, we need to understand these things. So again, we do this. I've said this many times, CBT is nothing but mind-body behavior connection, and the same thing, but in a different way, how a thought, feeling produces a behavior, which is again body-mind behavior connection. Told you, just from various different angles, I'm repeating to hone in the kind of importance of our mind, body, and our behavior connection. And if we understand this, then the putting CBT into practice becomes a cinch. But going a little bit technically, CBT involves two steps. One is metacognition and the other is mind rehearsal. These things you can get it. So that self-awareness is an important aspect that we have understood that. So that is about metacognition. The second part is mind rehearsal. We know this happens, we've seen this with athletes. Any one of your favorite athletes, be a tennis player or somebody in Winter Olympics going down the luge, the slope. what is it that they're doing? Mind is saying that, yes, I can do it. I know I can do it. Not only that, they're in their mind, they are rehearsing that ace self that they're going to do the next second. In other words, how does that work? Said if we change our thoughts, we can change the structure and function of the brain. It may not be long lasting, but it does change that moment, that instant it changes. Anything positive, that moment say that with, change that, put that thought in your mind. Along with that thought, put your feelings into that, the right feelings, the positive feelings. Let it be very intense feelings and see that. But to make this as a long-lasting habit, it has to result in some action. And again, very, very briefly, all experiments have been done. You know, kids who were playing piano, when their brain was scanned, you could see which region of the brain was lighted up or got activated. And some other kids, they didn't even play the piano, but the same song, they just looked at the keys and they were playing in their mind without touching the keys. And the same region of the brain lighted up. So, mind rehearsal is so important. This is where we know after repetition of a cognitive cue. We've seen this with athletes. Before that, say this, or soon after they say this, yes, I did it, or before that, they psych themselves up in calm information, their favorite one, whatever it is, that they either they have been given, that affirmation by their coach, or they have figured it out, they have their own affirmation. So we actually give an age-old technique of japa. What is japa? Japa is nothing but repetition of a cognitive cue. The only thing is, we get so good at japa, doing japa, it happens in a mechanical way. That is why we say, our loved ones say, you've been doing japa for such a long time, nothing has changed. Should happen in a mechanical way. Remember the definition of affirmation? Repetition of a cognitive cue. Means with cognition, in a conscious manner, in an effortful manner, in a willful manner. Effort means it should not be, it's not that it is tough. When we do it with joy, it becomes effortless effort. So japa, when done consciously, has that power. And we're using different terminology in science, but the same. Yes, you have a question.
At that moment when you're doing the working with the stem, you're creating a vibration. That is the intensity of the whole energy in the sound.
Yeah, you're using different words. The terminology is different, that's all. It's coming from that feeling. Say vibration. It's nothing but that energy. Feelings, it's nothing but energy. Thought is an energy. Right? Yeah, but the right feelings are important. Fuel for any action that you do. So important, the feelings. Just at the thought level, when you just think and then you just do it at a cognitive level, doesn't have that same kind of result. Those thoughts, cognitive thoughts, have to be fueled with the right type of feelings. I'll give you an example again, if you bring a smile on the face to understand this example. And we say we can't do it, kind of energy, oh, we will give all these reasons why we cannot do it, right? Everything negative, right? Again, because of the bias, no value judgment here. And we will not be able to do it. And if we have to do it, if we do it because we have to do it, then neutral feelings. We have to do it, and if we bring that right feeling or emotion, really feelings are the fuel behind any action. Information which is binding us down, pulling us down, if we replace those repetitive thoughts with something that is positive, even if it is not done in action yet, it is okay. That repetitive positive thoughts, that is why I even put as self-talk. The impulse to react. That means we need to take a pause to be able to think. If we don't pause to think, impulse that you question that thought. Is that true or false? Whatever I feel like reacting because of whatever else, question that thought. And then go through a true or false test, whether that thought is true or not. Questioning means whether it's true or not. But when you do this, be mindful. Don't defend. Don't blame. Be honest. Be mindful. If the thought is not true, then reject it. And replace that false thought with a positive thought, which could be uplifting. And to help you, use your own affirmations. You can make up your own affirmation depending on the case to reinforce this, because these are repetitive thoughts, or the situation might arise again. Thoughts are true, and if the situation cannot be changed, accept the situation with serenity and try and change your belief system about it. We have, and to develop the wisdom to know the difference between the two. What is it that we can change and what is it that we cannot change? Again, the only thing we can change, if at all, is ourselves. It's impossible to change others. At best, depending on how we walk our talk, we can influence the other person to change. We can hope the other person to change. We can never let go of the hope, but not expect the other person to change. Very, very powerful prayer, scientific prayer, highly scientific. Okay. Just want to conclude and then take up questions from you. Gone through a couple of hours already. What I'm concluding, of course, today's talk on rewiring tools, but go back for all those 3 sessions what we have learned, and this is also the final conclusion for this well-being program that the organizers have put together, and have had so much joy in customizing this for this very group. I just have to thank the organizers for giving me this opportunity to share my joy. And I always say giving is receiving. Thank you. So to conclude, focus on changing your limiting thoughts. Have that self-awareness. Know what your limiting thoughts are. And so, but just changing our limiting thoughts is not going to be enough. We need to focus on changing the actions. Focus on changing limiting beliefs. But just changing our belief system is not going to be enough. Focus on changing your actions. Focus on changing the disempowering thoughts. But just changing disempowering thoughts are not going to be enough. Focus on changing your actions. Focus on changing your disempowering beliefs, and just changing our disempowering beliefs, it's not going to be enough. Focus on changing your actions. So ultimately, we need to be focusing on our actions. Ultimately, we need to be focusing on our habits. Ultimately, we need to be focusing on our behaviors. It's very profound. It's not the things that happen in our life that drive our emotions and behaviors into many of the disempowering ways. But the way we believe about those things make us to do so. So can we all together make a decision here and now to make our lives, the rest of my life, to be the best my life, right? We can do this together. And the secret of change is not to focus on our old ways or old experiences all the time. Put all your energies not on fighting the old, but learning from the past, not fighting the old, but building on the new. The power of now. Change your mind, change your brain, change your life. Change your belief, change your brain, change your life. Change your attitude, making that shift in that perspective so that you can change your brain and change your life. Mindfulness and CBT, you can use them as just tools, or you can make them as a way of your life. What all Swamiji has taught us before going to Durban in these 2 years, using different terminology, is this: to make it a way of life. Make spirituality as a way of life. For that, it has to begin from a single thought. It has to end with action, and it has to happen now, because now is all what we have, and now is all what we need. We just need to know how to play that right in the here and now and here. If you were wondering about that matchstick, the last few slides, again, this is what Swamiji has been telling us. This matchstick is symbolic. We don't have kids here. We just finished the kids program. And the faculty who did the kids program, they're here too. So what do they teach the kids? If we tell the kid, look, there is fire in the matchstick, can that little kid understand? has to just believe in your words, right? It has to have faith in your words. It has to believe in your words, and the kid believes. But we don't want the kid just to believe us. But it asks, there is fire? How can it be? And what do? We strike the match and show the fire that was inside. Hidden, potential fire. In a similar way, what all I have shared with you all, the potential that we all have to be evolving at an individual level, doing our own, putting our own effort, to be on our own path, to be doing our own work, our own inner work, but knowing that we are all together on this journey to be co-evolving. That potential we have, we can use it just to survive, or we can make a shift in the way we are looking at things to be evolving. To be evolving by ourselves, but knowing fully well that we are all interconnected. And so we are in this journey together. Behavior of the monkeys in one island where they learned how to break the coconut, that was on the beach, to many different countries, meeting many people with many different cultures. This has been an issue with the younger generation. How do they cope? By trying to bring a culture. Because value could be individual value or just family value. Culture is a lot more broader. And that is why even the word spirituality is coming up, because then it can be used as a culture with the positive values rather than it. Then it becomes almost like an anthropological view, which is again, there is so much that has been written up from anthropological view perspective also. We are in this day and age, which is so exciting. I know there is so much of atrocities that's going on and so much of negative impact about the technology. We're only focusing on those things. But yet, there is so many great things are happening. This is such an exciting time to be looking at the research that's going on in neuroscience, going on in physics. I see so many youngsters going into theoretical physics. They're specializing, youngsters. I've met so many youngsters in India going into physics, which was kind of unheard of. Yes.
Two questions. One is, I heard that you related quantum physics with neuroscience. So can you please a little bit more elaborate? That's one. And second is, how do you train your brain to that effect where you start thinking positive and all of the things that you have mentioned? Is there any technique available? Maybe what came to my mind is what meditation. Maybe which is easy that we can practice.
See, meditation, I'm using the word mindfulness because trying to put it as a scientific way as possible. And science is also making things simpler and easier. As soon as we say meditation, these days it's different, but first thing that comes to our mind is, first of all, you have to sit cross-legged and you have to close your eyes. You have to have certain amount of time, minimum of probably, somebody would say 30 minutes, or they may bring it down to 20 minutes, depending on the case, at least minimum of 20 to 30 minutes. So what science has done is to make it simpler for us to accept and practice. First of all, by using the term mindfulness, nothing but medication. What scientific evidence has shown is as simple as minutes or so, even when done over 21-day period of 3 weeks or 4 weeks, they have started seeing changes in the brain itself. Mindfulness is another word for meditation. Affirmations. Again, when you keep repeating at the thought level, but again, which is nothing but japa, as we saw, again to meditation. That's why I say japa is not just about repeating the name. How do you put a japa into action? Right? Not by swirling the beads, that is not the action. We're talking about to see the changes, understand the meaning of that japa or the by increasing our physical activity. Actually, we know for certain again